Hello, hello! It's another icipici series on the Hungarian Living Podcast. This time we focus on traveling to Hungary. What do you need to know? Well, even if you've visited Hungary before, we are talking about important things like passports, traveler's insurance, credit cards, and local currency, flights, and all the ways it might be helpful to prepare for travel. So stick around. Hi, welcome to the Hungarian Living Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sabo-Voss. We're on a mission to help you maintain a meaningful connection to Hungarian heritage in a variety of ways. We talk about food, travel, history, music, language, genealogy, and share stories from our guests. We're glad you're here. Join us each episode as we discover, celebrate, and share a variety of things about Hungarian heritage. If you grew up surrounded by Hungarian culture, then you know how special that is. And if you didn't, this is a great place to learn and grow. So whether you know a little or a lot about being Hungarian, this is the place to be. Szia! This is part 3 of the icipici series of traveling to Hungary. And if you are planning to take one of our trips to Hungary or Transylvania, or you're doing your own thing, we will be covering some important things to consider as you plan your trip. This time, we're talking about documenting your journey. I have mixed feelings about having cell phones on a trip. Let me just say that there are some great cameras on cell phones, and that is probably my favorite thing about having a phone along. And while it's awesome to be able to take amazing photos, it can also be very distracting for the photo taker. Some people actually miss out on the here and now experience because they are taking a lot of photos. I know it's a hard call. I take photos a lot for ideas, for memories, for promotional brochures, but there are times I just have to remind myself that I don't always need to have a great photo for everything. In fact, that's why journals are a good idea. A photo does give a great visual, but it can't use your own words to communicate your thoughts and emotions and the other details of your experience. Do yourself a favor, experience where you are without always needing all the photos, and consider keeping a daily journal of your trip. I suggest taking notes in a tiny portable notebook you can have with you during the day. Then at the end of the day, do a longer recap of the day. Every day you will have so many experiences that it is best to write them down each evening. Or if you tend to wake up in the wee hours of the morning, grab your notebook and find a quiet place to think your thoughts and write out your experiences. For example, if you visited your grandparents' village and walked around, how did that feel? What did it leave you wondering? If you walked into a butcher shop and you inhaled the amazing aroma of all the smoky meats, did it remind you of something from your younger years? If you're traveling with an elderly parent, what was it like to watch them reconnect with a family member? Did they start telling you stories you hadn't heard before? How might you share those stories with others? Of course, there's nothing like being there and hearing the stories firsthand. But try to recapture something of the experience before life gets crazy and you forget all about it yourself. Do you see what I'm trying to say? There isn't always a photo captured for these types of emotions, but thinking them over and putting them to paper, even if it is just to say that it was indescribable, paints a picture for the reader, and we don't always know who the reader is or when they might be poring over these memories. As you think about documenting your journey, there is no right or wrong way. There are advantages to each. Just remember to be present and experience it. If you spend too much time behind a camera or in a phone, you will definitely miss out on a few things. Would you like more information on our upcoming Zoom chat about our tours to Hungary and Transylvania? It's free and there is no obligation to sign up for a tour. It's just a way for you to meet us and see if our tour structure is something that works for you. Email tours@magyarliving.com for a link to the next upcoming session. That's tours, TOURS, at magyarliving.com. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, stay tuned for part 4 of the icipici edition of the Hungarian Living Podcast, all about traveling to Hungary. We also have icipici podcasts on getting started with genealogy and getting started with Hungarian. Be sure to check them out wherever you listen to podcasts. Are you interested in traveling to Hungary or Transylvania? This episode is sponsored by Magyar Living Tours. Interested in visiting Hungary or Transylvania but don't want to deal with all of the details? Our tours are typically 13 nights long and include all hotels, transportation, an English-speaking guide, 2 meals each full day, and a wide variety of activities. Come, see for yourself. Visit modularliving.com to learn all about the details about our upcoming tours. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Hungarian Living Podcast, please share it with someone you know who loves their Hungarian heritage. Special thanks to Stephen Cicek and the Animal Cannibals for the show music. Check out our show notes for links to resources mentioned in this episode. If you have a question or comment, we'd love to hear from you at podcast@hungarianliving.com.